So a little over a year ago, I decided that I wanted to share how I made my live-action Pokemon videos with my audience. So I made a video showcasing the basics of how it's done. Little did I know that that video would accumulate over 20,000 views. That's amazing, and I can't thank you guys enough, and I hope I was able to help you guys in any way. However, since that video has gone up, I have learned a few new things that may prove useful to you guys. So I decided to make this video, showing off some of the new things I have learned and addressing some questions asked in the comments of the last video. Again, thank you, and I hope that this video will help you in making your own Pokemon animations. And if you run into any problems, just let me know in the comments and I will try to help you to the best of my abilities. So the first thing I'm going to show you is how to apply textures to an X and Y model. This was a frequently asked question in the last video, because in the last video I showcased how to do it with a Pokepark model, where parts of the model are separated based on texture. But if we go into edit mode with this X and Y Pikachu model, you will notice that right from the import, all of the model's parts are joined together. This is actually better designed by the developers, but it makes applying the textures in a viewable port a little bit trickier. So we're going to go into texture viewpoint real quick, and you'll notice that the textures are not applied. I'll move this over just a little bit, hold on. And yeah, the textures are not applied. So if we were to try and use the last method to select all of one part of the body and then apply a texture, we would get some kind of zombie looking Pikachu, because it would apply one texture to the entire model. So how do we fix this? How do we apply a texture to the model so it looks like an actual Pikachu? Well, that's what I'm going to show you right now. But before I do that, I would just like to point out with this smaller view right here that if we go into a render viewpoint, one moment, let me turn this on, that the textures for the model will turn up in the renders no matter what it shows in here. So this is mostly an optional thing. You don't have to view the textures while you're animating the model, because either way you will get the final render with the textures anyway. You could even use the zombie Pikachu if you wanted. But for those who want to see the textures while they're animating, I'm going to show you how to do it now. So we're going to go into edit mode, and we're going to make sure that none of the vertices are selected. So if we press A, it'll select all the vertices. If we press it again, it'll deselect all of them. If there's one selected and we press A, it'll deselect any that could be selected. And we're going to go to the materials tab. Now you'll notice that this will list all of the materials for Pikachu. And underneath that, you'll see three buttons that will not appear normally in object mode. So if we go back to object mode, those buttons won't be there. So let's go back to edit mode, and you have three buttons here. Assign, don't mess with this because this could mess up the textures applied to the model. Select and deselect. So what we're going to do is we're going to select one of the materials, which I guess we'll just use this one because it's the one already selected, and then we're going to press the select button. Now you will see that it selected all of the vertices that this material is attached to with this model. So, for instance, if I deselect this and press select, it'll now select Pikachu's cheeks, because this is the material that applies with Pikachu's cheeks. So we're going to go back here, press select, and now from this point onward, it would be just like I showed you in the other video. We're going to go over here, we're going to click this part right here. This is the body A texture, so this will be Pikachu's first part of the body, so now it'll apply normally. So then, hold on. So now we're going to deselect all those vertices like I just did. I'm going to go to the next material. We're going to press select, which this is Pikachu's cheeks. So now we're going to use this texture, which is the one that applies with this one. So now Pikachu's cheeks have loaded properly onto the model. And if you don't know what texture to use, just go over here to the texture thing. It'll show you the texture here, and it'll say what texture it is here. So then that's pretty much it. We just do that for all the textures. So we'll go to this one. This is Pikachu's mouth, so we'll use the mouth texture, and then we'll deselect this. And then we'll go to this one, we'll press select. This is Pikachu's eyes, so we press the eye texture, and there we go. Go out of edit mode, and we have the textured Pikachu model. So I hope this helped you in applying the textures to an X and Y model. So if for any other model, just do the exact same thing you did with Pikachu. There could be 2 materials, there could be 8 materials, it depends on the model. But yeah, that's basically it. So now I'm going to move on to the next subject. So near the end of the last video, I showed you guys how to control the eye textures on a Pokemon model. However, I feel like I did it in a very sloppy way and not something easy to understand. So I'm going to show you more in detail how it works now. So right here we have our X and Y EV model, and down here I have a small render viewpoint here so we can see what eyes are currently active. And up here we have our normal list of EV materials. So this is the body, this is the mouth, this is the eyes. The numbers could be different for different models, but right now we're going to go to the eye material here, and we're going to go to the texture settings. Now this will show you all the whole texture, which has all of Eevee's possible eyes. And we're going to scroll down here to this little bar, these bars right here that are labeled under offset. Now what this does is it controls what part of the texture is being viewed. So it's all on 0 right now. So imagine that there's a small little box around these set of eyes, and we want to go down here. So we're going to move this imaginary box down around these set of eyes instead of these sets of eyes. So we're going to go to the Y value of this offset bar, which is up and down, and we're going to type in negative 1.25. Now if you notice here, Eevee's eyes will now be half open because by typing in negative 1.25 into this bar, we have kind of moved the viewable texture, or that imaginary box, down here from up here. So now let's say we want to make Eevee angry, and we want him to have angry eyes. So we're going to set this back to 0 by clicking it, pressing 0. And we're going to go to this little X bar, which is left and right. I don't think Z does anything, so you don't really need to worry about that. And we're going to type in negative 0.5. And now Eevee's eyes will be angry. Now, it may be kind of hard to memorize those numbers at first, but those are the values for moving the textures around. So this typing in negative 0.5 moves this imaginary box 1 space to the left. Typing in negative 1.25 in the Y bar will set it 1 space down. And that applies for most of the Pokemon models as well. So let's say we want Eevee to be happy. So we're going to type in negative 1.25 into the Y bar as well, and now Eevee's eyes will be happy because by typing in negative 1.25 we moved it 1 space down, and by typing in negative 0.5 in the X bar we have moved it 1 space to the left, which is here. So let's say we want Eevee's eyes to be closed. We'll set the X bar to 0, and we'll do this twice, which is negative 2.5. Now Eevee's eyes will be closed because negative 1.25 twice, or 2 spaces down, is 2.5. So that's how it mostly applies. So let's say we want Eevee to have worried eyes. We will set negative 2.5 the way it's 2 spaces down, and we're going to hit negative 0.5, which moves it 1 space to the left, and now Eevee's has these eyes. So that's basically how you choose what eyes you want viewable. And this mostly applies, those numbers will apply to almost, if not all the models that I've seen with Pokemon. So how do we animate it? Say we want Eevee to blink. So to animate it, we're going to make sure we're on frame 0, and we're going to go over the bars here and press the I key. Now it'll turn yellow, which lets us know that this frame that we're on right now has been keyframed. If we move forward, it'll turn green, which lets us know that the texture itself is keyframed in the animation, but this frame itself is not keyframed. So we're going to move forward to where we want Eevee to blink, say frame 40, and then we're going to press I again. This key is really important because it lets us know that all of this right here, like a duplicate frame, it's like a duplicate frame. All of this right here, nothing is happening with this texture. If you were not to add this extra frame, Eevee's eyes would scroll to the next eye, which would look very creepy as shown in the previous video. Then we're going to move one frame forward by pressing the arrow key or just doing this. And then we're going to set this to negative 1.25. Now, if you remember in the last video, I had this set to negative 2.5 instead, because that's Eevee's blinking animation, as seen here. That's the texture where Eevee's eyes is closed. But what this will do instead is it'll create a steady animation for Eevee blinking instead of just coming into a close and then open state. And it'll appear much smoother. So we're going to press I over this again, and now this frame will be keyframed. So between these two frames, it'll jump immediately to this texture. And then to the next texture, we'll set negative 2.5. Press I again, go one frame forward, press negative 1.25 again, which will set it back to this, and then back to 0, and then we'll keyframe it. And then we'll go to where we want Eevee to blink again, say 130, and then we'll do the same thing again. Keyframe the 0 frame, negative 1.25, keyframe this, negative 2.5, keyframe this, negative 1.25, keyframe this, excuse me, and then 0, and then keyframe that, and then if we do this, it's kind of hard to show because it's not playing in a smooth animation, but it'll cause a smoother Eevee blinking animation. So again, make sure that between parts where Eevee is not blinking, or in any part their eyes are not changing, that you have a duplicate keyframe. So like, let's say we want it to be angry for a while, we'll set 0 here because we want nothing to occur here. Then go one frame forward, go negative 0.5 to give Eevee angry eyes, and then go forward a little bit, set another negative 0.5 keyframe right here, and then go one frame forward, then press 0, and then keyframe that. And that's basically how the eye textures work. So I hope I was able to clear that up for you guys, and I will show you the next subject now. So the next thing I'm about to teach you is probably one of the most important things you need to know if you're going to make smooth animations and save a bunch of time, and that's IK constraints. So, getting it set up here real quick, we can right click this bone, it'll select the skeleton, we'll go over to the armature settings, and then we'll turn X-ray on so we can see the skeleton, and then we'll go into pose mode so we can move each individual bone around. So we can either use this rotation tool, which is down here, the rotation tool, the slider tool. I'll keep on the rotation tool for now, and we can move each of these bones around in any way we want to, just making them not look weird, like say, you get my point. Anyway, if we let's say we want to animate something, but we don't want to spend all this time animating all these bones around individually. Well, IKs will help us save a bunch of time, so you will notice that there's this button over here when you are in pose mode and you have the skeleton selected called Auto IK. If we select this, and then we grab a bone in a chain, say the tail, the bone in the arm, and we grab it with right click and then move it around, it'll now move all of the chains, all the bones in a particular chain. So for instance, this arm, it'll now move all of those individually. The tail, it'll move all of those as well. And that will save us a bunch of time, because instead of having to do a rotation tool, like move it up like this, and spend a lot of time keyframing a lot of things like that, you could just grab this, go up like this, and it'll save you a bunch of time. But IKs can help us with more than just that. So let's say we want to make an animation where like Eevee's looking down at something, and we move the spine down to do it, but then the feet go through the floor. This is something that bothered me for a very, very long time, and it was still an issue that I had even when I made the last tutorial video. But I've since then found a trick in order to stop that from happening, and it involves IKs. So I will show you how to do that now. So again, with the X and Y models being a little bit more complicated to animate, say the spine here, there's another spine bone here that you can't see. The neck and head bones are harder to see. There's invisible bones like here. This is the foot bone. You can't see it. But at the end of a lot of bone chains, you'll notice there's like this invisible bone called an end. It just is the same name as this one, except it has end at the end of it. What these bones do, so like for instance, this is end right hand. We click this one twice, we get end left hand. Click over here, we get end tail 3. What these bones do is absolutely nothing. So if we rotate it with this, it won't move anything. But these bones, I don't know why they exist, but they're going to help us with keeping Evie's feet on the ground. So if we go into edit mode here while having one of these end bones selected, you'll know because of the text down here. So let's say we want Evie's right hand to stay on the ground first. We'll go into edit mode, and while that bone is selected, we will go up here to the bone settings, and over here you will notice this little parent hub right here. So what we want to do here is we want to kind of cancel this relationship that this end bone has with the normal right hand bone. So we're going to cancel that out, and now if we go out of edit mode, we can grab this and we can move it anywhere we want to. Now I wouldn't move that as much as I just did, because if you move it, you're probably going to have a hard time finding it again. So instead, we're going to use this thing right here to just slide it down a little bit towards the end of the hand bone. And then, with this still selected here, we're in pose mode. Make sure that if you select something else while this hand bone is selected, that you'll be able to find it again. So like, don't move it all the way over there and then select this, because you'll have a hard time finding it. So with this around here towards the end, we're going to hold shift so we can select multiple things, and then right click this bone right here, the forearm. And then after both of these things are selected, you can't really tell that the end bone is selected, but if you hold shift and right click, it should be. We're going to hold shift and then we're going to press I, and it'll give us the option to add an IK, which will press to active bone. And now you will notice that this bone is yellow. So if we click around here, double click, you'll notice the end bone is now right there. Now what this did is it kind of attached an IK, so like for instance when we move the tail, it added kind of a solid IK right here. So this bone here, and in turn all of the bones attached to this, will go to or face whatever direction this end bone is at. So if we did this now, it would move the entire model, because right now the chain is set to 0, which moves the entire thing, and we don't want that. So we're going to go to the Constraints tab over here, and we're going to make sure our yellow bone is the one we're selected, because that's the one with the IK. And you'll notice this little bar called chain length. Now depending on the model, you would want a different chain length, but since Eevee's has like 2 or 3 bones, we're going to want the chain length to be 3, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, 3. Yeah, 3, because 3 bones here to the end bone. And now, if we were to, so now you don't want to, so let's say you want to animate these bones, you don't want to animate them in the traditional way now, because it'll make you won't be able to move them a lot. So if you want to move these now, you're going to grab this end bone and you're going to move this wherever you want the arm to go. And it'll save you time. But what this does in addition to the auto IK that I showed earlier is if we move the spine down now, the arm will stay in generally the same place. Now you'll notice the hand is still going up, because the rotation for this is still attached to this arm, so it goes up with the arm as well, but we don't want that. So we're going to grab this little hand bone right here, go to the bone settings for it, and then you'll notice this down here called inherit rotation, and we're going to turn that off. So now when this moves, we'll move the end bone, it won't move along with the rest of the arm. And because of that, now if we turn the spine down, The arm will stay in the exact same place as we move the spine. So we're going to do, so just as a repeat, I'll do it for this arm too. We'll go over here, I'll double click this area of the bone, and we'll get a end left hand, and usually it'll be around the same area. They'll usually be at the end of a chain. So for instance, there's one here for the toe, one here for the foot. So we're going to do end left hand, we're going to go into edit mode, and then we're going to go to the bone settings, which we're in. Exit this, cancel the parenting for these two bones, scroll this down just a little bit to right here around this area, hold shift, right click this bone, hold shift, press I, press 2 active bone, then go to the bone constraints, add a chain length of 3, or depending on the model it may be more or less, and then we're going to go here, and then we're going to go to the bone settings again, and then we're going to turn off inherit rotation. And now if we do this, if I did this correctly, yep, if we rotate the spine, the arms will stay in the exact same place. So that's basically how IKs work, and you can do this for any other things too, but I've only really found use for it in the arms, in the quadrupeds, in legs and stuff like that. So for this one, it's a little bit trickier, because for the legs here, it's a little bit trickier. Not all of the models have this problem, but ones where the foots are just really, really small may have this problem, in case this one does. So instead of pressing this one here, end right toe, if we were to parent this to this, it would cause some weird problems that I can't really explain, but just take my word for it, it's really weird. So what we're going to do instead is there's another end bone here for this foot right here, which is again small. So we're going to go into edit mode, go to right foot, scroll this down a little bit to right here, and then we're going to hit shift I, then no, shift right click, then shift I. Then we're going to go to the bone constraints, add 2 this time because it's only 2 bones until the top. So now we should have control over the leg. And then we're going to go to the foot, not this time, because the foot is the next one down. Go to the bones, turn inherit rotation off, and now if we go to the hip bone here, again small and visible, the leg will stay in the same place. I will say for things that have this problem, it does make the walking thing a little, or moving this, animating it a little bit hard, because you still have to animate the foot individually, but it'll still save you a bunch of time, and not all models have these problems. And now you know how to do it if the model does have this problem. So then we'll do it for this one. Again, showing you one more time. Go to the end left foot here. Then we're going to unparent it. Scroll it down here, shift right click it, then shift I, 2 active bone, chain length of 2 with bone constraints up here. Then we're going to click the foot, make sure it's the foot. You can tell what bone you selected again by looking at this down here. And then we're going to turn off inherit rotation, and now we will have all our feet connected to, they'll all stay on the ground now. Again, if you want to animate the legs, you want to use the end bone only, not the bones connected to the chain, again, because you'll find very stiff and sometimes very weird results, as you're seeing here. You want to grab or move the end bone up and down, because the rest of the bones will come with it. This tip will save you a bunch of time and is a very major step in animation, and it's almost impossible to make, say, a walking animation without using IKs, because as the spine moves up and down, it'll push the feet through the floor. But now you've learned a very, very major step in animating, and I really hope that this helps you out. So now I will move on to the next subject. 。 So now I'm going to show you guys how I make smoother animations in general. I imported the Charizard model because I feel like this model would be the best model to show this trick with. I have the skeleton set on X-ray. I have the thing set to record any keyframes that I will make or any changes in the bones, and I have the dope sheet up here. So we are pretty much ready to animate. All I gotta do is turn on pose mode and then we can animate. So the thing I want to animate is I want to make Charizard's tail move back and forth. So I'm going to keyframe all these tail bones, which I could easily do now. I don't have to move every single bone. I can just have auto IK on, click the last bone in the chain, and then click the access, and now it'll keyframe all the bones up there. So that's another time saver that you can get through auto IKs and IKs. So again with IKs, I could try making a keyframe over here using the IK, but moving some parts of the model with an IK can be a little tricky. So it's not always the best way to animate things. So let's try using the old rotation tool. Now I could go like this with the rotation tool, but let's say I want all the bones in this model to have the exact same, or in this tail to have the exact same rotation as all of the other ones. Well, if I go up here, I can see the coordinates for the bone I currently have selected. So let's say I rotate this bone a little bit to the left. The coordinates will change because now this is the coordinate for this bone. So if I go back this, the coordinates are 0 because I haven't moved this bone yet. And we can you can move it like this and the coordinates will change, but you can also put numbers in here and it'll change the bone here. So I want to move the bone precisely over in this direction. So if I go to this arrow and click it, it'll now move negative 0.1 in this direction. And I can do this for the entire chain here. Now I don't want it to be all negative 0.1 because that seems a little large, as you can see here. I don't want it to be that wide. So I'm going to change that to negative 0.75, or negative 0.75 on all of them. So hold on one second. And now we have a slightly less wide curve. Now I don't use this trick for animating that much because, as you would guess, it's probably much easier to just grab this and rotate it. But in case you want to make something very precise, or you think this will be useful for you, now you know it exists and now you can use it any way you want to. So this is keyframed now right here on frame 0 because we're on frame 0 where the animation should start. And I'm going to move over to frame 25, and now I want the tail to move over here, and so it would move between those two frames. And I'm going to use this little thing up here again, so I'm going to go to positive 0.075 like this, and I'm going to move it over like this, and it should rotate. They should all have the exact same rotation. Again, you don't need to rotate. I'm just being way more precise than usual, but this is more to showcase that this does exist if you find this useful. And now it has keyframes over here. So now if I play the animation between these two, this will move over there between frame 25. I'm going to set the frame rate up here just a little bit, move this, set this to 30, and now it'll move like that between frame 0 and frame 25. So I'm actually going to duplicate this now, and I'm going to go to frame 50 and move this original set over here to frame 50, duplicate this over here to frame 50. Now instead of going and shift clicking all of this, what we can do is we can click this little top one right here and it'll select all the keyframes on this frame. So since all of these are on frame 0, we can just click this and it'll select all of them. Now I'm going to hold Shift D and make a duplicate over to frame 50, and then I'm going to go over here and select this group, move this over to frame 75, and then move this over to frame 100, and then frame 125, and so on and so forth. or I could just click both of these, duplicate both of these, and then do it twice as fast. And now we have a tail moving back and forth. And this is all fine, but let's say we want this to be smooth. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have this end of the tail lag behind a little bit so it looks more natural. So I'm going to press B on my keyboard, and this will create this little line. And what this does is it lets you create kind of a window box to select things in a group, kind of like on an old computer. And I'm going to box in all of the keyframes for all of this here in the chain, except for the top one. So I'm going to select all of the keyframes in the chain except for the first in the chain, which is tail 1. And then I'm going to press G to grab them all. And then I'm going to press the forward arrow to move 1 frame forward. And then I'm going to do it again, go 2 frames forward. And now I'm going to box everyone except the first 2. So now we're going to go down the chain, repeat it, going 2 frames forward. And then we're going to go down the chain again. Repeat this until you don't have any keyframes left. And keep doing this. And now, if you do this, this means that this part, like, since these are further apart now, this bone right here will lag behind the bone up here. And this will create kind of a smoother, like, animation, so to say. So, watch. See how this part's lagging behind a little bit more and it's causing a more natural look? Well, that's basically how you do it. You separate the keyframes in a chain and it causes a smoother animation to happen. And this doesn't apply for everything. Say, like, it's not best to do this for maybe like arms or something unless you're trying to be a little bit silly. But for like wings, tails, and sometimes even a neck or a head, this will work, and it'll help you create a smoother animation and more lifelike animation. So I hope this was able to help you out, and it's time to move on to our final subject. So for our final subject, I'm going to show you something that happens with a few X and Y models and how to fix it. So I've imported a Zorro model, which is one of the models that has this problem. And if we turn the lights on down here in the rendered view, you will notice that there's something not quite right with Zorro's eyes. There's this little black shadow covering his eyelids, the pupils are standing out all by themselves. Basically, it looks like Zorro has stayed up and saw a very scary movie. So this is a problem that occurs with a few X and Y models. That occurs for this one. It occurs for the Fennekin model, it occurs for the Zoroark model, it occurs for the Machop model, and a few others. But no matter what model you're using, the methods I'm about to show here will fix this problem. So there's actually 2 different ways to fix this problem, one of which is very, very simple and easy, and if you're looking for a quick fix to this, you might want to use method 1. The other one is a little bit more complicated and takes more time to set up, but it'll give you more control of the eyes if you do the second method. Either way, I'm going to be showing both, starting with method 1. So with the Zorro model selected, let's go see what Zorro's materials are. And at the bottom of the material list, you'll notice this other peculiar eye texture. This is actually the iris material, which is the pupils themselves. Now for method 1, we don't actually want this material to be viewed anywhere on the model, so we're going to make this material completely invisible. No shadows, no appearance, no anything. So the first thing we're going to go and do is go over to the texture settings, and there's 2 of these iris materials, and up here we're going to turn both of them off. So now Zorro is just covered by a black shadow. His eyes are covered by a black shadow. So that's all we need to do here. So we'll go back to the material settings, and then with the material settings we'll scroll down and, on this iris material, and we're going to turn traceable off. So now you'll notice that Zorro's eyelids are back, but he doesn't have any pupils anymore. So, So now we're going to add the pupils to the eyes. So up here we're going to go to his eye texture, and then we're going to go to the texture settings, and you'll notice that the textures actually don't have the pupils on them. So it turns out if you check Zorro's texture folder, you'll actually see 2 variants of the eye texture. one without the pupils like the one you just saw, and one where the pupils are merged in like all the other models. So what we're going to do is we're going to click this button, which will bring us to our folder list, and then you're going to click a texture with this name, which is the same as this one except it has merged at the end of it. And when you do that, I'll do that real quick, it will load the new texture, which is the texture where the irises and the eyes themselves are merged. And then from here you would control the eyes like you saw at the beginning of this video. Now for the second method. Like the first one, we're going to make sure that the Zorro model is selected, and we're going to go over to the material settings. Now, unlike last time, we're not going to go straight down to the iris material. We're going to go through all these materials here, scroll down to their settings, and make sure transparency is turned on. You don't need to mess with the alpha or specular settings, you just need to make sure that transparency is turned on. This is to prevent some minor shading problems later. So we're going to scroll down, click all these materials, and turn transparency on all of them. And then when we get to the iris material, transparency is already set on for this. But instead what we're going to do is that alpha and specular are already on 0. So we're going to scroll this up to 1. So now Zorro's little black mask that he has is now white. Now this is kind of on the outside of the model, and we want this to be on the inside of the model. So we're going to go into edit mode, go up here, and with the iris material selected, we're going to press the select button, and then we're going to get up closer to the model here, grab the y-axis, and scroll it a little bit inside the model so it disappears from here. Now you'll notice that we're back to Zorro with no pupils. So we're going to go out of edit mode, back to object mode, and we're going to go up to his normal eye material. Now instead of using the merged material or the merged texture this time, we're going to add a new texture. So we're going to click here, and then we're going to click new. And then when we want our type of texture, we're going to go from clouds to image or movie. And then we're going to go down here and press open. Now in the Zorro texture folder, you should notice a texture with this name. You're going to want to open that texture. So I've opened that texture, and now you'll notice that we have some weird outlines of the white in Zorro's eyes. So it kind of caused a black mask for right now, but we're going to fix that by going down here to the mapping settings, going to coordinate, and then changing it to UV. So now Zorro has these white evil eyes, but we're also going to fix that as well. So down here, we're going to change this from color, we're going to turn color off, and we're going to turn alpha on. And then further down, we're going to turn on RGB to intensity and negative. So now if we go back to the material settings and we go back to its transparency settings and turn this material's transparency to 0, you'll notice that Zorro's eyes are now blank. So what we have to do now is kind of the opposite of last time. We're going to turn transparency off on these eyes. And now you'll notice that Zorro is back to normal with the white background and his eyelids and the pupils. So what's the advantage of using this method over the last one? Well, if we go to the iris material for Zorro or whatever model you're using, go to the texture settings and go to the offset, which is the same thing you used if you remember for making models blink. If we move the X and Y axis, we can actually move Zorro's pupils. Now, this is kind of limited to how well you can do this because it moves both pupils at once, so you can't have one eye face one direction or so on and so forth. And it's kind of limited how well you can make it look good with the x-axis, because if we move it, like say, other way, hold on. Yeah, it makes him look kind of cross-eyed. But yeah, it gives you the availability to move the pupils of whatever model has this problem. So in a way, you kind of want a model to have this problem because it'll give you more availability for creative animations. So another downside to using this method over the previous method is that it's slightly harder to make the model blink, which I'll show you now. So if we go to the material settings, go to his eye material, and then go here, there's now two textures that we have to deal with. So what does that mean? So if we do the keyframe offset thing that I showed at the beginning of this video to make him blink, I'll keyframe one here, go one frame forward, negative 1.25. You'll notice that this is happening. That's because the iris and this texture right here are now connected, so they both have to have the exact same offset at the exact same time. So if we go back a previous frame, back to frame 0, they now have to have the exact same coordinates at the exact same time. So this, I keyframed this on this texture, so we're going to move up to this one, go down here and keyframe this one. Then we're going to go one frame forward, negative 1.25, we're going to keyframe this, then we're going to go back up here, go to this texture, go down here, negative 1.25, keyframe this, and now you'll notice that the eyes are moving like the previous models. So we're going to keep going, we're going to go one frame forward, negative 2.5, negative 2.5, keyframe it, go up here, change the texture again, negative 2.5, keyframe it, and then so on and so forth. One frame forward, negative 1.25, keyframe it, go to this texture, negative 1.25, keyframe, and so on and so forth. So it's the same thing as when you're making another model blink, it's just now you have to deal with two textures instead of one. So yeah, that's basically how you fix this problem. You kind of want your model to have this problem in a way, that way you can make more creative animations. So this was our last subject, but if you guys want me to make more tutorial videos, just let me know, or give me some recommendations in the comments of what you want me to showcase. I haven't learned everything yet, but I will try to answer your questions either in the comments to the best of my abilities, or if it's major enough, I might even make a video about it. The next tutorial I do will most likely be on how to do some Pokemon moves such as Thunderbolt, but I haven't really experimented enough with them for me to show you guys how to do them confidently yet, but expect something like that sometime in the future. But for right now, I hope that this video was able to help you improve your Pokemon animations, and again, let me know in the comments if you guys have any problems or any questions, and I'll try to answer them to the best of my abilities. Thanks for watching.